The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
John Anik, Kenny Florian.
Oh, my God!
You want a podcast? Great. We have some audio on your website that nobody goes to.
Here are your hosts, John Anik and Kenny Florian.
You know, we're like 240 episodes into this thing. 10 minutes ago, my wife says to me, hey, do you mind if I just, sit in the bedroom on headphones folding laundry while you do your podcast? It's like, get the fuck out of here. You can't fold laundry in the bedroom. Well,
This is our thing. This is our thing.
Don't make me nervous, honey. It's episode 240 of the Anik and Florian podcast, Monday, March 9th, 2020. Happy birthday, Dominic Cruz. I guess Corey Sandhagen, Ken Flo, must not know that it's Dominic Cruz's birthday because he chose today, or maybe it was last night, to shout out to the Instagram masses that he has been offered a co-main event against Dominic Cruz, who has not competed since 2016, of course, in San Diego in mid-May, so in Cruz's backyard. So a lot of that lines up real well for Dom. I mean, certainly Corey Sandhagen is a guy who at times has emulated Dominic's style, and certainly Dom has been an MMA hero of sorts for him. I think he was until the first fighter meeting he had with Dom, and then maybe, that's when he started to think maybe this fight could actually happen. But no, Corey wants this fight, obviously, a very difficult challenge for Dom if he returns to that fight after, 3 years on the sidelines.
Dude, that's a fight. And again, I know that Sandhagen has definitely taken elements and emulated elements of Dominic Cruz's game, as he should. Dominic Cruz, one of the best footwork guys ever to compete inside the octagon, does a lot of things differently and intelligently. And to see that fight go down, man, that would be tremendous. Sandhagen is a guy that's very tall for the division. He's a big 35er. And he's got a lot of different weapons and tools that I really think would bring out the best in Dominic Cruz. That's an awesome fight. Sign me up.
Bantamweight's awesome right now. We were talking a lot about Bantamweight because of Sean O'Malley this weekend, and he certainly looks like a future top five or if not champion to me. He's 25 years old, and we didn't even get to see a touch of what he has developed over the last 2 years. But yeah, it's interesting right now. I ran into Aljamain Sterling, and I didn't intend to lead the show this way, but Aljamain Sterling I ran into in Las Vegas. He's still idling a little bit with that wrist. It's a critical couple weeks for him. He's going to try and stay in Vegas for another week of rehabilitation to really try to get that thing well. But you got Cejudo taking on Jose Aldo. Of course, Marlon Moraes and Petr Yan, I think, are going to collide in the main event. Maybe Sandhagen and Cruz. So starting to move along. Yeah, the division is great. But happy birthday to the bantamweight goat, Dominic Cruz. All right, so UFC 248 kind of had it all. But in the nature of time, we have got to lead with the fight of the year. When people ask me, Kenny, what's the best fight I've ever called, I think always the first thing that I think of is you and me in Brisbane, Connecticut, 2013, the heavyweight headliner between Bigfoot Silva and Mark Hunt. But since obviously there have been incredible fights, right now, if you're asking me that question, I do believe, men or women, the best fight that I think I've been octagon side to call is Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Recency bias or otherwise, we witnessed something special Saturday.
Just witnessing how much volume those women threw and how much they had to take throughout that fight. The momentum shifts throughout. Both these ladies are champions in my book, showed a resiliency and an offensive arsenal that I thought was really, really impressive. And, Joanna kind of predicted this, that it would be a legendary fight. She absolutely delivered that. Both of these women, the way that they matched up, it definitely had the makings of a war. It was just that and more. I was blown away by their performance and just their willingness to continue trading back and forth and the adjustments that they had to make throughout. What a fight. And again, as far as deciding who won that fight, I mean, that is an extremely difficult thing. I thought the fifth round was probably Zhang Weili's round for sure. But the other rounds were really hard to call. It could have been tied up heading into that fifth round. Yeah, I don't know, but both those women, I think, really deserve a rematch. There was one person in particular who came at me saying, "What are you talking about? What are you going to give every title shot to Joanna?" I mean, does she not deserve it based on what she's done and how close that fight was? And I don't think any fans would be against that, really, seeing a rematch. Those guys are just kind of – some fighters are just made to fight each other. I think those two are certainly that.
Yeah, they're destined to fight again. And how prophetic, to your point, was Joanna Jędrzejczyk saying it was going to be the greatest fight in strawweight history. It's one of the best fights. It's a Hall of Fame fight, but one of the best fights in UFC history. And Ray Longo was texting me during it. So let's bring him on in. Let's get to the Ray Longo Minute.
It's now Time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I'm gonna punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute. Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
So goddamn much to unpack on this co-main event. Raymond Peter Longo now joins us live. Ray, it's always good to have you, my man. I mean, one angle of this is the price you pay in terms of your longevity for a fight like that. I mean, how about the forehead on Joanna Jędrzejczyk after that fight? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, no, I've never ever seen anything like that. I remember back in the day a boxer named, I think, Hasim Rahman had a huge hematoma, but not over the whole head. This looked like it was 4 hours in special effects on a movie set. This was crazy.
Yeah.
Next unrecognizable, time, really.
Hasim Rahman that's the best example by far. Next time, text me next time, Ray. Make me look like a genius on pay-per-view. Just text me Hasim Rahman.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, you are a genius in that booth. You are a genius. So you've saved that booth with all your insight and all your notes and stuff. Are you kidding? You know, somebody sent it to me. I think Bloody Elbow does a winners or losers. You were in the winners. I mean, I'm proud of this guy, Kenny.
He killed it all the time.
Well, thanks. Ken Flo's texting me information all the time.
But yeah, I will do that next time. I'm sorry about that, too.
So, Kenny, before I get Ray's thoughts on the fight and Zhang Weili from a technical standpoint, because I think she answered a lot of questions, there's got to be a price to pay in terms of the longevity, right? I mean, for Joanna Jędrzejczyk, 14th UFC fight, 10 of them have been title fights, 25 minutes against Valentina Shevchenko. Most of her title fights have gone the distance. Clearly, the head was bothering her. I'm not trying to be a downer, but there's got to be a price to pay for Zhang Weili when you absorb a fight like this, just as your championship career is getting going.
No doubt about it, especially considering the fact that Joanna was certainly the bigger fighter out there. Those shots are going to take its toll. For Joanna, obviously, she's had a lot more 25-minute battles than Zhang Weili has, but talk about, welcoming her into the fire and, knowing what it's like to deal with another champion at a very high skill level. That was unbelievable. And I was also impressed with the fact that she was able to get on the inside. For Joanna, I felt like she should have really been sticking and moving a lot more throughout that fight. She was hanging around and kind of watching her work. You can't do that against someone like Zhang Weili, who's going to find a way to get in, land those left hooks, and the right hands was really what was concerning me the most. Those right hands were landing heavy. Joanna was she'd land her combination and just kind of wait there and look to kind of slip her head off the center line. That was never happening, and Zhang Weili would just kept landing that right hand repeatedly.
Ray, I was pretty impressed with Zhang Weili's ability to weather the Jędrzejczyk storm. Most fighters kind of crumble under that pressure. Certainly she was giving her back that pressure and then some. But, Ray, you texted me during the fight, I think Joanna might be in her head. Joanna's going to win. And at that time, I absolutely agreed with you. I said on the air I felt like Joanna would have been the betting favorite on a betting live at that point in time. On the balance of those 25 minutes, I did think Joanna Jędrzejczyk won the fight round by round. I have no idea. But, Ray, certainly there was a time in there where Zhang Weili had to get a second wind and dig deep. And I got to think in your mind she certainly did that.
No, without a doubt. I agree with you. And I did text you that, and I thought she was breaking her by the end of the second round, and it looked like the girl was confused, she's normally, like the bully in there, and this time it just wasn't happening. Joanna, and I agree with Kenny, should have been maybe a little more side-to-side movement. Like I think Nama Yunus will give her a fit if she fights her, but she was able to stay in front of her, and she was, I think, a little quicker, not as strong, but she did push that fight forward. I thought she controlled the dance, and I do think Weili came back unbelievable in the fifth round and really had to dig down deep. But I got to tell you, at the end of the fight, I thought Joanna, I thought they owed it to her as a former champion with that performance. I thought she won that fight, and
I did too.
It was close. It was a great fight. Obviously, again, I agree, Hall of Fame fight. That I certainly was on the edge of my couch, going crazy. But just a great fight for the fans, and I think because of that fight, it highlights what a stinker the other fight was. And I know there'll be some controversy over that, but
Ray, real quickly, before we get to Adesanya and Romero, how about this Mike Brown from American Top Team, right? The former WEC champion, such a great head coach. He's put in a lot of extra time with Yoel Romero in advance of this fight, and he rebuilt Joanna, and so did Ketel Kubis and all these guys, but they wanted so badly for her to break through, right? She's on the wrong end of that decision, and Mike Brown's got to immediately go back, change the fight kit, and come corner Yoel Romero. I got to think nothing easy about it, but I just wanted to shout him out there to our fellow coach, because that couldn't have been easy to make that quick turn.
No, one of the good guys in the sport. Again, Mike Brown he's done a phenomenal job. You could see he's passionate about what he does. He's heartfelt. Nobody ever says a bad word about the guy. Any conversations I've ever had with him have been positive and insightful. And he's, I think we were in Japan together when somebody who the hell he was, but you could see just jumping around, and he's into it, man. He's a great coach, and that's a tough schedule to go from that fight to the Romero fight. Yeah.
I know for Team Romero, this was an awfully difficult pill to swallow, but I just think for Mike in particular, given how much he had invested in Joanna, thought she won that fight, and it's a real hard regroup there. So
it's the highest highs and the lowest lows for coaches as well. You know what I mean? The whole team just feels like, they all feel for the fighter and how much work they've all put in. It's tough to deal with that, no doubt.
Yeah.
So, Ray, we've had some stinkers. I mean, there have been some fights that have been crazy outliers like Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis, where as a commentator, you don't quite know what to say. I think the worst fight I've ever called was Konstantin Irokin versus Gabriel Gonzaga. I have long said that at the highest levels of mixed martial arts, sometimes you are going to get some fights that are very tactical and not all action offense all the time. Yeah. I thought it was a pretty clear win for Adesanya, and have expressed that thought to Abe Kawa, Yoel's manager. I did think Izzy won the fight. 3-2 or 4-1, I guess. What were your thoughts on a main event that obviously gives us a lot to unpack?
Man, look, you could go a bunch of different ways, because I know I read Kenny's tweet, and I agree. It was tactical, but he made a decision to do what he did. It takes two guys to fight. This is very tricky. It really is. But he let a 43-year-old man stand in front of him, and he couldn't do a fucking thing with him. Nothing. All he could do was point out, look what I did to his leg. Really? And then when the guy's doing the samba at the press conference, he's like, well, he's a good actor. But behind closed doors, he's hurt. Really? Now you're going to tell us how much his leg is hurting? I thought it was a complete unraveling for Adesanya from a personal standpoint. I thought he did what he had to do to win the fight. But, you have 3 of those in a row, and you're going to have no UFC. It goes back to that again. Nobody's going to pay to watch that. I agree with the technicality. It was always, in the air. Would Romero get him? Would he get him? So I think it kind of saves it that way. But at the end of the day, man, like even Deontay Wilder, he's got a punch from hell. But Fury made a decision to go right at him. Could have backfired, but it didn't. You know what I mean? Weili Zhang is a tough opponent with a hard punch, but Joanna made a decision to fight, and I believe Adesanya got hit with that punch in the first round, and he made a decision to play it safe. Whether you want to call it, whatever you can call it, whatever you want to call it, but he had an option. He could have went right at him. Why didn't he?
Yeah, well, Ken Flo, I think a lot of the fan base is going to agree with a lot of what Ray just had to say. I agree with part of it. I think there's a whole Romero side that might have been conveniently ignored in what he just said. I mean, what do you think about what Ray had to say there?
Yeah, listen, I would say this, is that you also have to play to your strengths, right? There was a guy named Robert Whittaker who tried to go at Adesanya as well, and he got knocked out. You have to look at the strengths of a fighter, and you have to look at your own strengths as a fighter as well. And I get that, people appreciate that, but I know we'd all like to think that, Robert Whittaker will be remembered as that guy who was aggressive, but people are going to look at that L at the end of the day, and they're going to see the knockout right there. And people are going to forget about the fact that he was moving forward. All they're going to recognize is the L and the W. And this is a championship fight between two elite fighters, right? And again, Joanna went forward. She made that risk of moving forward and not being so defensively responsible. Not only did she take a complete beating in that fight, but she also didn't get the win. Whether, she could have won that fight. It was a close fight. But here she is. She has all that damage, and she has an L at the end of the day. Here's the thing. we forget about Anderson Silva's performances in his main events. We forget about the one against Damian Maia. We forget about the one against Thiago Alves. We forget about the one against Patrick Cote. Anderson Silva is the same kind of striker as Adesanya. And that's why they had such a close fight. They're both counter strikers. When you get two counter strikers in there and they choose to fight that style, you're gonna get some fights like that, unfortunately. And it was very tactical, and it almost worked for Romero. Romero waited for him.
Yes.
Adesanya. Now this is not an excuse for Adesanya, because Adesanya is way more comfortable moving backwards, countering, and it's way harder to be taken down moving backwards than it is moving forward. When you're moving forward, you hit those reactive takedowns. When you're moving forward, you also become way more susceptible to a big shot that Romero actually landed in round one, kind of blinded Adesanya for a few seconds there. So Adesanya is way more comfortable moving back than he is moving forward. Romero recognized that, and that's why Adesanya was very careful to move forward. He was probing and prodding more than actually trying to take it to Romero because of that danger. And guess what? Romero kind of did the same thing too. It takes two to tango, like Longo said. Romero could have gone forward as well. And that's why I think Costa will bring it to Adesanya. We'll see a much better fight because of their style matchups. But don't be surprised if you see Costa knocked out on the canvas in their fight as well.
And my recommendation to Costa would be do the same thing Romero did. Just stand there. And then we'll have another no fight. Just stand there.
Well, the thing is, you got to be able to play smart. I don't think Costa's going to do that. I think he'll. No, I know,
forward, but I think at this point, what happens then? What do you do? The other guy, look. I mean, he said it. He goes, look, Gastelum came at me, Whitaker came at me, and Romero could say the same thing. Costa came at him, Whitaker came at him. They were great fights. So you got two guys. Yeah. So when you have two counter punches that don't want to engage, this is what we're going to see. This is the problem.
You're right.
Again,
it's true.
Kenny, I'm not disagreeing because as a coach, obviously, I want the W. So I'm just being the devil's advocate, to be honest with you, with this one, because I'm not that invested in it at all. But I just thought I thought there's people that make a decision to go for it, and there's people that play it safe. I think he got hit. You could say it was tactical. I say he was scared shit. He didn't want to lose that belt, and he was more tied up in not losing than winning.
Well, I would say this, with all due respect, I think any of your fighters who have lost by knockout, I'm sure you would trade that in for a W decision win, even if it was boring.
Yeah. And that's where it gets crazy as a trainer. Yeah. That's why I say I'm trying to be a devil's advocate just to provoke a conversation. But at the end of the day, look, the tactical, I do agree with you. He did what he had to do to win. It didn't make for an exciting fight, but, hopefully he doesn't
This is a championship fight. This is you know what's on the line here? It's not. This isn't a fight night somewhere in in the middle of Boise or something. This is a championship fight in Vegas. A lot on the line. The difference literally between millions of dollars or not. Right? For Adesanya to hold on to that belt, that equals millions of dollars moving forward for his career, and it means millions of dollars for Romero moving forward. So, it's tough. There's a lot on the line, and when you get these kind of fights, it happens in boxing a lot. It happens also when you get these elite fighters in main events with a lot on the line.
Yeah, look, the other thing is, again, I get criticized for bashing Conor McGregor for whatever reason. I really don't think I do. But again, to Conor McGregor's credit, he comes to fight. He deserves that money. These guys want Conor McGregor money without being Conor McGregor, I think, is bullshit. Conor McGregor's going forward. He's looking to finish the fight. He doesn't win all the time, but you know what? It hasn't tarnished his money account, hasn't tarnished his bank account. These guys want that money, but they don't want to take that risk.
Right, I agree.
I take my hats off to Conor McGregor for that.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that's a great example. And I think if Adesanya is looking at this fight, he's saying, okay, I am this counter striker, but now if someone does play that, what do I do to increase my arsenal of moves and basically up my ability to both keep the excitement level and be able to go forward effectively without getting countered, right? So exactly. He doesn't have that in his arsenal right now. He needs to fix it.
Kenny, if he was so happy with his tactical performance, why was he lashing out at everybody? Just own it. I mean, lashing out. The crowd's a bunch of buffoons. I got a weird feeling from his speech after that, man. It was almost like a scorned lover. He was it was a different spot, man. He was He was
I didn't hear
lashing
that.
out at everybody. Own it. I fought my
You
fight,
are-
and I won.
What
What are you criticizing the fans for? And what, I'm going to entertain for a bunch of buffoons drinking in the... I thought he went off the rails a little bit with that. I thought he just should have owned it. Listen, I had to do what I had to do to win. I'm
Right.
sorry it wasn't entertaining, but this is the fight game. But instead, he chose to really go after people.
You are right that he got defensive and it seemed out of character, so I will certainly give you that. I think there's so many masters in all of this, right? You have a promoter who has an agenda. You know, you think Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard, the matchmakers, are super happy when this happens? Obviously not, right? Like, obviously for us as commentators, it's a little bit more challenging, but I'm very conditioned to a snoozer here or there, even at the highest level, so it didn't really faze me all that much. Let me ask you this, Ray, in the nature of time, and I don't know how much time you have, but I walk up to the ESPN. All right, I walk up to the ESPN desk to host the post show, and Ken Flo, I'm dying to tell you this, and one of our producers, whom I trust to a great extent, was like, I had it 4-1 Romero, and I didn't know what to say, right? But there are a lot of people out there who thought Yoel Romero won this fight, and I asked Adesanya on the post show, would there be more learning lessons here if, you know, you didn't have a new Ruby on your belt, and you because he very conceivably, Ray, in the eyes of many people, could have lost this fight, and that would have been the ultimate price to pay.
Yeah, what was the last part of that, Ken, John?
Well, I'm just curious how close you thought Romero was to winning, and maybe why your criticism seems more reserved for the champion, right? Most people think this was a very close fight.
Oh, it was 100% a close fight. I would honestly, I could make a case for 1, 2, and 5 going to Romero. I don't know what the other guy did besides the leg kick. I don't think he hit him. Listen, at the end of the day, the most damage was done by Romero. Do we agree with that? Just with the few punches he landed?
No, I don't agree, because the leg was the biggest factor for me.
Yeah, Adesanya didn't really have a scratch on him.
Oh, man, I just remember so many fights where guys got their leg killed and they lost the fight. I don't know. But all right, how about this? Would you agree? Like he said he was going to retire Romero. Would you at least agree he couldn't back up what he said he was going to do?
Yes, I agree with that.
Yes.
I agree. And Ray, I think it's a healthy conversation. Before we let you go, I got to ask you about Dan Miragliotta in this fight, right? Because I like all these referees. I share buses with them after the fights, which is not always ideal because I'm paid to talk, and oftentimes it's about the job that they do or don't do. You know, I understand that a referee can warn and penalize fighters for timidity, Ken Flo. But when you're getting in between fighters and saying, you know, you're being paid for a championship fight, to me, that crosses the line of what you're being paid to do, Flo.
It's not his role. I get it. He's trying to get them to fight, and Dan's an awesome guy, and he's been around the sport for a long time. But that's when you're kind of getting out of your role a little bit. You know, that's not the job of a referee to kind of talk about those things. I think.
We've been through this a million times. We're going to be through it another million. There's no accountability. Nothing's going to happen. He's done it before. He had Michael Venom Page. He cursed him out after the. This isn't the first time.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say, if you're an official or a judge, do whatever the fuck you want to do, because nobody's going to do anything. Just do whatever. Just do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
There's no accountability.
I know.
Nothing.
Well,
zero.
Hey, yeah. No, I think largely they're discouraged from talking, and they don't see the upside in talking because it just potentially puts their job at risk. But, you know, they are independent contractors who technically could come on this podcast and try to defend their decision, but it just doesn't seem to them, I think, collectively as a group, that there's much upside. Yeah.
Man, so listen, the more these guys talk, the more it'll become obvious why we're having this conversation right now. They don't want that. Then they got a liability. Then it's a liability.
Yeah.
They got to deal with it. They're just out to protect their ass. That's it, you know?
Hey, so the highlight of my trip was a couple tequila and pineapple juices in after the show on Saturday night. Who walks out of the restaurant? But maybe the best bantamweight in the world, Aljamain Sterling. He's going to, I guess, try to spend another week in Vegas working on that wrist. But it was good to see your guy there for 10 minutes there after the fight.
Aljo's the best. He's the best, that guy. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, great passionate stuff out of you, as always. What do you got cooking the rest of the day? You going to sweat a little bit or what?
I think I got the All-American coming in. We got a couple of workouts I got to go through, and sparring tonight. Yeah, it's really getting busy over here. We got a lot fights coming up in the next 2 weeks locally, and then I go for Mizuki to Ohio against Tisha Torres, which is going to be a tough fight.
Let's go.
Well, I'll see you in Columbus, buddy. Tell the All-American Brian Stamp we say hi, and we'll see you soon, okay?
Yeah. Love it. John, you're getting there, buddy. I love it.
Getting there. Slowly but surely,
guys,
buddy.
listen, I was the devil's advocate today. Trust me, I'm not that invested in what happened, but I just making some observations just to be a bullbuster.
We want those opinions, dude.
Well,
we want those
man.
opinions.
Yeah.
You're speaking for a lot of people, so we appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. All right, listen, man, take it easy.
Thanks,
All right,
Ray.
buddy. Take care of yourself. Yeah, I could not believe how much Adesanya criticism I woke up to here on Monday after some of the snippets from our post-fight show aired. You know, I did ask him on the post-show, Kenny, to Adesanya, do you consider yourself a counter-striker? Because he kept referring to Romero as a counter-striker. He didn't want it. He's like, I'm the last style bender. You know, I mean, he don't want it. But counter-striker versus counter-striker, if you consider both of them to be most effective and at their best when they are in a countering realm, then sometimes this can happen, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. You see it in boxing from time to time, and again, you know, especially when you're talking about elite fighters who are trying to use their brains, they're not going to just rush in like that. That's never been their style, either of those guys, really. You know, so we knew it had this possibility of playing out this way. And every once in a while, you get that matchup that doesn't gel. Joanna and Weili Zhang Weili, matched up tremendously well. Wasn't the case in the main event. You look at those two fights back to back, and it looks that much worse, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't complain all the time. That co-main was tremendous. It's going to go down as one of the best ever. And
And if you heard Oddshark's Joe Osborne with us a week ago, he kind of expected Adesanya Romero could go down that way, gave you plus 175 for the fight to go the distance. But it's interesting in terms of the outcome, Kenny, because Dana was highly critical of Yoel Romero. And I think even for me on broadcast, you know, he's going to be 43 years old next month. Outcome hangs in the balance. Obviously, if we had open scoring, maybe that fifth round would have taken on a different tune, although Romero certainly had his moments in that fifth round. But how close a fight did you think this was? Because there was definitely a segment of the fan base out there that believed Yoel did enough to wrest the belt away.
It was close. It definitely was close. I thought it was pretty clear for Adesanya myself, at least 3-2.
Yeah.
You know, again, when you're playing that counter-strike style, it's going to be tough to kind of be adamant about why you got a certain win when you're talking about the difference between 1 or 2 strikes. I mean, Romero really didn't do anything in the first round besides that overhand left, and then kind of did that for the early part of the round, started moving forward a little bit more later in the fight because he had to kind of switch things up.
Right.
I don't know. Listen, I thought Adesanya won pretty clearly, but it was definitely close.
Yoel Romero was not credited with a takedown. I know a lot of people think he got Adesanya down one time. He wasn't credited with that takedown. And to me, you know, I think Ray was sort of intimating that what are you going to decide a championship fight on leg kicks? But, you know, when you put 24 welts all up and around the thigh and the knee of the other guy, and hey, isn't the onus on the shorter guy to get inside and try to prevent that from happening if it becomes a narrative in a round?
Definitely, and it slowed him down. You could clearly see that it was slowing Romero down. Romero was not moving the exact same way. And yeah, that's the unfortunate part about it, man. And it was interesting because you hear both those guys, they were both complaining about the other guy. Why? Because they wanted the other guy to come forward really badly. Both were very hesitant in playing that role. So, again, hopefully we see in both of these men, you know, them kind of bring more of an offense, or at least develop that in their training so they can come forward without giving up that big advantage.
I got to say, for us in the broadcast booth after Zhang Weili and Joanna, the fact that they just stood there for 5 minutes in round one, I was like, all right, thank you, boys. You can fight now. We appreciate that. We just need you to reset for us a little bit. Good news is, I don't know if there's a betting line on this, but I can guarantee you Paulo Costa is going to move forward and will not ever in his entire career be involved in a fight that is that unaesthetically pleasing to the audience, right? This is Gaethje B, right, in terms of the most exciting fighters in the sport in any division for me. I mean, go to UFC Fight Pass and look up Paulo Costa. So what's your appetite for that middleweight fight, and how competitive do you think Costa is against someone like Adesanya?
It's fire. That's the fight that should have been made, right? Obviously, Costa got injured, but there's no doubt in my mind that this is a guy that does not care if you're trying to take him down. He does not care if you're trying to counter strike him. He's going to get in your face, and he's going to try to touch it repeatedly with his hands, his elbows, his knees, and his feet. So that's the match you got to make. I do think it's not going to go the distance. I would be very surprised if it does. Right. One of those guys are getting knocked out. There's no doubt about it. Those guys are made to fight each other, and I can't wait to see it. Hopefully, is Costa ready to start training yet? What's the?
He will be ready to fight in 12 weeks from right now.
Oh wow!
So
okay, he looked a little bigger than normal.
Oh no! Oh yeah, somebody was suggesting that when he's done fighting, and there'll be a lot of muscle there, but he'll be like 350 when he's done fighting.
He was big. He's a big dude.
So quickly on the Strawweight Championship as we spin it forward, I want to know what you learned about Zhang Weili, because certainly Joanna Jędrzejczyk wasn't the only one who was questioning her technique, questioning her ability to survive in championship rounds. I think she answered a ton of questions in terms of heart and cardio and whether or not she is a 5-round championship fighter. But Tatiana Suarez certainly waits in the wings. There are stylistic matchups like Namajunas, a rematch with Andrade that will absolutely go longer. What questions were answered by Zhang Weili, and how do you handicap her moving forward here against Suarez and the rest?
Number one, she can withstand a tremendous amount of punishment. She can deal with adversity. She can go 25 minutes against another skillful fighter. So as far as that goes, for everyone else in that division, I guarantee you that she is going to get infinitely better after this fight. The experience that you gain in 25 minutes of being in the octagon against another elite fighter is huge. I'm talking about mentally, physically, technically, all the things that she's going to come away with because she is a true martial artist. I think Weili Zhang is going to be tremendous after this fight. She's only going to be that much better. Now, she did take a lot of damage in this fight as well. So I think she needs to take her time, really heal up. Don't get right back into sparring. Make sure she's taking care of her body, number one. But this is a fighter that is only going to grow and get better from this. So that doesn't bode well for other people in the division. But for Tatiana Suarez, she should be banging on that door right now asking for this fight because she's a very different fighter than anyone that really is in that division for the most part. She's the best wrestler in the division, but the way that she matches up against the current champ, I think she wants that fight.
Well, the division is so exciting, and I think more than any other division, when you look at the top 5, it's all former champions, right? Mm-hmm. So the top 5 fighters, I think Nina Ansaroff is maybe 6 right now, and of course, bring her up so we can congratulate her and Amanda Nunes. They'll be having a baby in September. So Nina is pregnant, but she has said she's going to resume her career thereafter. So she will factor back in this equation, I think, and she's going to be super motivated as a mother. But
that's awesome.
When you look at it, it's Andrade, former champ, Namajunas, former champ, Jędrzejczyk, former champ, and then Suarez, the best wrestler in the division, the best wrestler the division's ever seen.
Yes.
115 pounds is in tremendous shape. So we will have more on UFC 248 with Ian Parker in a moment, but I want to bring on TJ DeSantis because it's time for the pronunciation of the week. This man will make his 17th UFC appearance this Saturday against Ken Flo's Peruvian brother, Enrique Barzola. By the way, the UFC Bantamweight debut for Barzola. So moving down to 35. So doesn't sound like a fun Thursday night to me. No. TJ DeSantis, 3-2 on the year, my man. Of whom am I speaking, buddy?
I thought that you guys hated me, and then you finally give me a layup, and I know we're cool. So this man is named Hani Yahya.
All right, let's hear his file.
Rani Yahya. Rani Yahya.
Bullshit.
He just decided to change his name all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He's no longer Brazilian, TJ. I'm not TJ. This is the only time I'll take TJ's back on this.
Okay. Yeah. Royce Gracie, Renzo Gracie.
Exactly.
You don't get to change. Like, is it now Jean Anik?
Hey, generationally though. So I'll give you the point. You're 4-2 on the year because I think most of the fan base thinks it's Hani Yahya. This was a selfish play by me. I just want everybody to know that there are a lot of Brazilian fighters who want you to Americanize their name. So Ronnie wants to be Ronnie Yahya on broadcast. And every single time that we call his fight, Kenny, when you and I called his fights back in the day, he was Hani.
Yes.
Right? He wants to be Ronnie. just like Ronnie Marks wants to be Ronnie and not Honey Marks, right? So every time we call his fight, we hear from people like TJ who tell us it's Honey. So I just want to play the file.
Man. So are you Jan Anik? Is it Joao Anik? What are we going with here?
Joao Zeferino. That's what it is. Joao. Joao. I want you to call me Joao.
Joao Anik. All right, here we go.
I'll never forget when I first sent the audio down for my Joao Zeferino combo feature. They're like, what did you say his name? I said it just like he said it. Joao. All right. Plenty more to get to. Of course, we got UFC Fight Night, Lee versus Oliveira coming up Saturday night on ESPN Plus. We make some picks here in the Main Event Challenge.
It's the Main Event Challenge. Anik.
The time is most definitely now.
Florian.
I finish fights! I'm going to do everything possible to win.
The Main Event Challenge. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Oh, God damn it. What the fuck? Those are the sounds that used to come out of my mouth when I would cut myself shaving before I knew about Manscaped. And I continue to thank Manscaped for turning those loud shrieks into multiple peaks. And I think a lot of guys out there, a lot of you have gone out and bought this Lawnmower 3.0 because you got to do some manscaping. And it doesn't always go off without a hitch, you know? It's like a paper cut on your balls. It's not fun. You know, your daughter's like, what's wrong, Dad? Nothing, honey. Good news, though, men. Manscaping accidents now a thing of the past. Manscaped spent 18 months redesigning the greatest below-the-waist trimmer ever created. It is absolutely that. It's the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. Features a brilliant cutting-edge ceramic blade to prevent accidents. Allows just for a much more quick and efficient trim because you're not worried about the metal blade doing damage down there. It's a premium product. LED light for more precise trimming. They've upgraded the motor. Battery lasts up to 90 minutes. Rapid charging dock. Looks super sleek. It's powered by USB, which obviously makes it super easy with all your devices. Manscaped has truly thought of everything to make the Lawnmower 3.0 a life-changing product for men. So many people, you know, have written into us to tell me about buying the Lawnmower 3.0. TJ bought one last week. You got to try this for yourself, and we're going to give you 20% off with free shipping with the code AF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code AF, manscaped.com, promo code AF for 20% off with free shipping. All right, so 23 apiece going into UFC 248. Ken Flo takes the week 5-4. He goes 5-1 on the main card, 4-2 for Ian Parker. And Ian, obviously the close fight was the swing fight for you last week. Drakkar Klose was very close, like a Manscaped trim away from beating Beneil Dariush, and that's a 3-point swing for you. And I kind of was feeling you on Klose, man. You thought about changing your pick to Dariush. What a fight. I mean, you feel like you're calling a close knockout, and the next thing you know, it's goddamn Benny Dariush.
It was the first time in a long time I got a text from Kenny so quick after that fight was over. All I got was one of these. I got the fuck you, bro, text message. You know, not like, yo, good job. You hit that insane parlay we talked about for 2 days. It was, yo, I just knocked you out and took the lead. Fuck you. He didn't say anything. He gave me a heart shape and this. That was it. That was it. So and he unfollowed me. No, I'm
sorry. So you gave out a parlay on that Anik Florian Pod live Instagram stream on Saturday, and Chikadze was probably the big one that you got because I thought Jamal Emmers won that fight.
Nailed it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that one, and then Gerald hit, and then O'Madsen hit, Vieira hit, and then Cowboy hit, and Sean O'Malley hit. Pretty much hit everything going into that main card. It was a big one, and I said to Kenny, you know, I wasn't in love with it, but the odds were there that if I hit it, I got to just chill for the main card. Although I did have Zhang Weili and Israel Adesanya as the last legs. Didn't even feel like hedging. Although Zhang Weili, that was close. That was a little scary as well.
So I don't know if you guys heard us talking about Austin Hubbard, who was beaten by Mark O'Madsen. But Austin Hubbard had a win in September, Kenny, over Kyle Prepolek in Vancouver, I believe it was.
That leg.
He got compartment syndrome after the fight and basically passed out in the elevator. And I'd encourage any of our fans who don't have a squeamish stomach to Google Austin Hubbard leg and see what this man dealt with, the gray matter that was his leg. And he almost lost his leg. I think it was like 38 staples or whatever. Almost lost the leg and, of course, thereby his fighting career. So I was telling this story while he was walking out, while many of our listeners were in commercial break. And then I showed Rogan the picture while we were in commercial. And Joe said, and
dude, you almost made him throw up on camera because the minute you said that, and Joe goes, "Oh, why'd you show me that?" Hubbard throws a fucking leg kick and O'Madsen. That like the timing that you guys had with that was pretty spectacular.
Ken Flo, apartment syndrome, bro. I'm glad you're retired,
dude. Wow.
Yeah. So Ian, I just want to very quickly get your thoughts on Zhang Weili and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and then time permitting, if you got 30 seconds on Adesanya Romero. But this feels like one of the best fights that I've ever been able to witness. I'm always thinking, as a former boxing guy, in the back of my mind, God, this damage just ain't good for career longevity. But they gave the fans an absolute treat, and you got to think a decade down the line, that fight's going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame.
I mean, it's people keep saying it's the best fight in women's MMA history. I think it's one of the best fights in overall MMA history. You know, it gave you everything you wanted for 5 rounds, the pace, the striking, just the strategy. It was crazy. It's sad that Joanna obviously came out looking the way she did. I mean, I've never seen a forehead swell like that ever, but props to both of them. I hope they run it back. I think that rematch is very much deserving. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, yes, longevity of careers you always got to think about, but look, to her, maybe it was her last shot at a title, and she really gave it all. I mean, it could have went either way, but kudos to both women. That was unbelievable in every sense of the word.
You're going collared shirt today. You're not in the sweatpants world with me today. You got somewhere to be?
I had a meeting this morning. I had a couple meetings this morning. I had to wear a polo with sweatpants, but at least I went polo up top. I'm kidding. I'm wearing jeans. Don't worry. Yeah.
Any of those Anik and Florian podcast sales meetings or no?
I haven't done enough in the last few weeks. My bad. I'm sorry. No, totally.
Look at this guy. Well, you know that your highest value to us on this program is obviously your insight from a betting perspective. So let's get to it. And time permitting, on the backside, we'll hit on Izzy Adesanya. Main card, ESPN Plus this weekend, folks, in the light heavyweight division. Johnny Walker Blue, -140. Nikita Krylov is +120. We'll see if Johnny Walker can bounce back from that Corey Anderson disaster. He had won 9 in a row going into that fight before those fateful 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Krylov on the other side lost a split to Glover Teixeira his last time out. That was September. So Krylov 1-2 in this second UFC stint. Ian Parker, who do you have in this main card fight at 205?
I like Johnny Walker here. I like him at these odds. I think it was -140 right now. I think Krylov is definitely dangerous, but I just don't know. He doesn't do well against pressure guys, and I think Walker, different mindset, different gym where he's at. I think they're going to reboot his IQ a little bit, and I think this is a good rebound fight for him. Not knocking Krylov at all. He's not a bad fighter. He's well-rounded. I just don't think he's dynamic enough to handle what Johnny Walker's going to bring. I think Walker comes back and makes a statement here. So I'm going Johnny Walker.
And I would think for Ken Flo, formerly trained by the great Firas Zahabi, if Johnny Walker's going to go up to Montreal, that's enough to get your pick today, is it not?
I'm going to go with Johnny Walker, but I tell you what, Krylov is one of those guys who could pull off an upset. No doubt about it. And I think that he's still dangerous. He's going to be right there. He's not going to fold easy, that's for sure. I do think Johnny Walker should get the win. I like the fact that he's training with Firas. I think he'll be more measured in how he uses his weapons and how he moves forward offensively. I hope for the better, and I hope he still retains some of that exciting, aspects of his game. But I like Johnny Walker here, but not going to be easy.
All right, next up, lightweight guys, not a featherweight fight here. Renato Moicano -325 versus Damir Hadzovic, who is +265. So Moicano was closing in on a featherweight title shot. He had wins over Calvin Kattar, finished Cub Swanson, but 2019, of course, not his year. Stoppage losses to Jose Aldo, and then the Korean zombie Chan Sung Jung in a main event. So that not only set him back, but forced him to hit the reset button on his career. He moves up to 55, and here in that UFC lightweight debut, heavily favored to get past Hadzovic. Ian Parker, who do you like?
I think based on the level of competition, I still think Moicano has enough left in the tank. Again, surprised the odds are so high up there, being 0-2 and going up in weight. But this matchup, I think, favors him. I think if he brings his fight to the ground, doesn't get sloppy, uses his range, he should be all right. The guy he's fighting was really losing to Marcin Held until he hit that really magical miracle knee that I've never seen before when a guy shoots in like that. So I like Moicano here straight on a betting standpoint. It's hard on a -300 plus, right? For a guy who's 0-2 going up in weight. But I think this matchup does favor him. Still a talented guy. I've heard good things from him, from his camp and whatnot. So I like him in this fight still.
Yeah, Ken Flo, Moicano, a prohibitive favorite, -325. No value there, especially because we haven't seen him in the weight class in the UFC, but certainly a talented fighter. I'm intrigued to see him without the treacherous weight cut as well.
Yeah, listen, I think I don't love him at 155 pounds. I'm not sure he's going to do as well as he would at featherweight, but it looks like he's trying to reset his career here. I do like him in this fight, however. I think he matches up pretty well. Hopefully he's able to utilize his reach. Sometimes he just doesn't take advantage of his reach like he did at 145. So I think he's got to be careful in this fight. Hadjovic is a dangerous striker at times, but Moicano should be able to get the win here.
All right, next up on the main card in the strawweight division, Amanda Ribas -270 versus Randa Marcos +230. So 14th UFC appearance for Randa Marcos, whom I really like. She's trying to do something here, though, that she has not ever done in the UFC, and that's win 2 in a row. So it's been a lot of up and down. Ribas obviously coming off the huge win over the previously undefeated Mackenzie Dern. She's 2-0 in the UFC, but just 9 months on the roster. There's no denying Ribas' talent, but she's fighting a strawweight who has as much UFC experience as anyone. Ian Parker, Ribas or Marcos for you?
I love Ribas here. I love her in general. I think she is a tremendous talent and a little bit of a breath of fresh air overall skill-wise. I think Randa Marcos is still too much of that one-trick pony. Keeps her hands low, relies on the wrestling, but she's so hesitant with her striking. And I think Ribas is just going to be too much, too aggressive, and too well-rounded everywhere here. I'm going Ribas. Not much to really say on this one.
I never plan my fight-ending calls, but the way you said Ribas there instead of Ribas makes me think the next time she finishes someone. No, I'm not getting on you. I'm saying the next time I'm not getting on you, bro. Relax. Next time she finishes someone, get on the Ribas, right? Get on, no.
All right. You turned that around. No, I saw where you were going with that. I was going to say, I've been working really hard on these pronunciations. And real quick, I would like to really give a shout out to the guy that did that interview with Rashad Evans for making me look like such a fucking pro by saying Yoel Romario and Israel Adonijay. I love you. I will follow you. I don't know who you are, but you're awesome. Sorry, go ahead, Kenny.
You absolutely nailed those 2 incorrect pronunciations, but still couldn't get Krylov off the top of the show today. Ken Flo, Ribas versus Marcos. Marcos +230. Any value on that side or no?
All aboard the Ribas. Listen, yeah, I think Ribas does everything better really than Randa Marcos. Just to cut to the chase, I think where Randa her strengths, I think Ribas is still better in those areas, but I think this is a fight that is kind of perfect for Ribas to really shine. I think she's going to look really sharp on the feet. I think she's going to be able to thwart all those takedown attempts by Marcos up against the cage or in the middle of the cage, does not matter. I think she's going to win a lot of those exchanges, and she might get a finish over a very tough Randa Marcos.
See, if we were naming our episodes, this would be episode 240, all aboard the Ribas.
Yeah,
should start doing that. All right, the co-main event will have Flo lead here. It's at 170 pounds. Gilbert Durinho Burns -210 versus Damian Maia +175. Of course, we will need the round and the method of victory. How about Damian Maia? I mean, this is crazy, right? So he had the 3-fight losing streak 11 months ago. Everybody leaves him for dead. Winless all of 2018. So 2019, this motherfucker goes 3-0, right? What is he, 44 now? Probably not that old. So 3-0 last year. So I was watching the main event between Maia and Askren in a car with Ian Parker. So he submits Ben Askren in a main event. Maia is a future first ballot UFC Hall of Fame.
Without a doubt.
He has 22 UFC wins. Of course, here, Flo, he's taking on a guy who's just killing it right now. Gilbert Durinho Burns had a lot of success in 2 divisions. He's won 6 of 7. The only loss in there by knockout to Dan Hooker, I think back in 2017. What do you think here about your guy Damian Maia against another guy who you obviously have a relationship with, Gilbert Durinho Burns?
Yeah, these are 2 guys that I don't want to see fight each other. I want to see the fight, but I don't want to see either of these guys lose. Listen, Damian Maia's nickname should be the fucking legend. Damian the fucking legend Maia. He's an absolute hero. But this is not an easy fight for either guy. The problem is for Damian, he tends to struggle against other guys with very good takedown games. I think Damian Maia tends to come out pretty hot early on with his striking, and then you see his volume kind of fade a little bit as the fight goes on. I think Gilbert Burns has the takedown game to kind of make it difficult for Maia to get on top. It comes down to this. The person who gets the takedown is going to win this fight. And if it doesn't come down to that, I see Gilbert Burns probably being more consistent with his striking a little bit. I think he has more power on the feet. And I think if Maia gets it done, it's probably going to be early. If this goes decision, I like Gilbert Burns in this fight. I think it will go to decision. I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns by decision over the legend Damian Maia.
All right, Gilbert Burns by decision for Ken Flo. By the way, 43 in November for Damian Maia. So
amazing.
I got the cat before the horse a little bit there. So, Ian, looks like it's going to be welterweight for Burns here, at least for the immediate future. That's where he's ranked in the UFC. A lot of people feel like if he's going to be a champion, maybe 55 is where that would happen. What are your thoughts on Durinho Burns here in what's just a fascinating matchup against the future Hall of Fame?
Flo was so uncomfortable having to break down that fight. He didn't want to upset anyone right there. I can see what he's like.
Flo.
Oh, I know he's got it. This is like when DC's calling a Duran win fight. He says the truth, but he's a little bit uncomfortable. But he was good. I really like Gilbert Burns in this fight. I think Damian is an absolute legend for taking this fight. I can't believe this is who they give him. After he beats Askren, you think they'd give him something a little bit more favorable of a matchup, but he's fighting a guy who on the ground is an absolute savage. His striking has evolved tremendously. You know, he's going to be the better striker. If this fight stays on the feet, I think Gilbert Burns can do whatever he wants. And on top of that, Gilbert Burns doesn't really have a neck. So I don't know what David's going to really latch onto here. I don't disagree with Kenny about this going to a decision because I just don't see Damian getting subbed. However, the only thing I could see happening is Gilbert maybe finishing him on the feet. He's got power in those hands. But again, this is one of those fights where it's close in that regard. However, I am pretty confident Gilbert gets the win. I'm going to roll with Kenny on this one. I'm not friends with either one of them, but I love both guys. Gilbert Burns by decision.
Burns by decision. So complete agreement. Congruence, is that a word? Complete agreement through 4 fights here. A lot of chalk. Maybe we'll have some dissension here in the main event. Lightweight, Kevin Lee minus 130 versus Charles Do Bronx Oliveira, who is plus 110. How about this, Flo? Kevin Lee in the main event for the 6th time in his last 7 fights.
Wow.
Right? I mean, that's a lot of fucking main events. 13 submissions on the other side in the UFC for Do Bronx, more than any fighter in UFC history. And he's on a tear. He's won 6 in a row since a 2017 loss to Paul Felder. Do Bronx undefeated in Brazil as well, but so is the Motown Phenom, 1-0. He went to Fortaleza back in the day on the equator there and submitted Massaranduba. Weight cut's always a part of the narrative for me during a Kevin Lee fight week, especially when the fight is international. Ian Parker, close main event on paper. Will it be 7 straight for Charles Oliveira, or do you like Kevin Lee?
Oh, this is so difficult. This is so difficult to choose. Oliveira's looked phenomenal, but the level of competition he's fought hasn't been overly impressive that I thought anyone was really threatening. And, when Kevin Lee fought Gregor in that last fight, I just thought that his experience and his level of competition he's fought was the difference. That kick he landed was insane. This is so tough. This is really a hard fight for me to pick on a Monday. But if it goes to the ground, I favor Oliveira. If it stays on the feet, I like Kevin Lee. I'm going to roll the dice here for now. It's Monday. I'm going to go with Do Bronx at the moment. I am hoping that he can use his range here, use the front kick, because even if he gets taken down, he's so dangerous off his back. And Lee's not a very long guy, so he will have no problem using his long legs to control Lee off his back. And I think if this is the time for Oliveira to get to that next level in division, we've always talked about that next step and him not showing. He's got to show here. Finishing a guy like Kevin Lee or beating him, it has to happen now. Because if it doesn't, where does he go from here?
Yeah.
This is the big test from him. So I'm going to roll the dice on Monday and take Oliveira. I'm going to say by submission. I'm going to say by rear naked choke. I'm going to go 2nd round because I think he has to do it early because I don't love his cardio either. So that's where I'm going to go for the moment here.
And for our listeners wondering why Ian is referencing Monday repeatedly, these guys reserve the right to literally change their prediction until right up to fight time. Hopefully, they would do you the service of actually pushing out a tweet as well and not just send me the text. But,
yes, 100%.
Oliveira by submission for Ian Parker. Ken Flo, I like the fact that Kevin Lee has aligned with Firas Zahabi, right? I don't know if you have any extra intel because of that, but I really do like that relationship. Huge result for that team, obviously, at UFC 244 with the knockout of Gregor Gillespie. How do you see the main event playing out, Kid?
I think you make a great point because if he was facing Charles Oliveira, maybe with a different camp, I'm not sure I'd be so confident in my pick if I were to go the way of Kevin Lee. I am going to go the way of Kevin Lee. I think Firas will have him prepared for someone like a Charles Oliveira. He'll certainly have the takedown game. on lock. I think as far as the striking goes, they're both about even. Oliveira is dangerous with his knees. I think Kevin Lee's kicks, I think his punches are good to set up those kicks. I think the most dangerous part of Kevin Lee's game, though, are those kicks, whether he's attacking the legs or going upstairs for a roundhouse kick. I do think he should look to try to steal some rounds, take him down, try to grind on him, get him tired. I think Oliveira is most dangerous in the transition. When you get him into some static positions like his guard and kind of slow him down, he's not able to be as creative. He needs movement. He needs space. I think Kevin Lee can kind of take that away from him, both on the feet by pressuring him up against the cage and on the ground by keeping his head above that head level where he can land some ground and pound and stay out of submissions at the same time. I like Kevin Lee here. I'm going to go with third round TKO, Kevin Lee.
Round 3 TKO for Kevin
But
Lee.
as Ian said, I would like to see how they look weighing in. That is always a factor for Kevin. Weigh-ins can be a problem for him. So we'll see coming up this week.
Ian Parker on social media at Parker Cage Hero and omnipresent on that Anik Florian pod page as well. We will have an Instagram live for you coming up Saturday before the fights. Ian Parker, great stuff, my man. Drive safely on your way home. We'll see you next week.
Later, Kenny. Chill, bro.
See you, buddy. Thanks, dude.
See you, dude.
All right, we got to get on out of here. Good stuff today. Inspired stuff out of Ray Longo. Thanks to Ian Parker. Thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped. Thanks to TJ DeSantis, Mike Heck on the video side. Please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, by the way. Yes, we are coming up on the 5-year anniversary of this program, but trying to get an uptick in the video subscriptions and really try to take that part of it to the requisite next level. On social media, it is at Anik Florian Pod. And if you want to email the show, anikflorianpodcast@gmail.com. Next Monday, full recap of Kevin Lee and Charles Bronx Oliveira and a preview of Tyron Woodley's return. That's going to be interesting, Ken Flo, with all the coronavirus backdrop, how that London event could be affected. So it'll be Leon Edwards and Tyron Woodley. Full preview and predictions coming up next week. MayRockyBJJ.com if you want to check out Ken Flo's school in the LA area. With that, for Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. Thank you all for listening, for watching everything else. We'll talk to you next Monday. Until then, yo, fuck later.